Happy Mondays, everyone. This time I would like to discuss about a decision that was penned by Justice Mendoza sometime in December 8, 1995, which is an excerpt of the generated reports numbers 11, 1962-72, entitled Maximino Gamido y Benaventura, the petitioner in this case, versus the Court of Appeals and the people of the Philippines, who were the respondents. You might be wondering why the person, right, that has been accused supposedly here in the case was named petitioner. Well, in cases, when you file cases in the lower court, okay, taking example of what you are looking or seeing in your screen, okay, Maximino Benaventura is supposedly been named as an accused if the case was in the lower court or initially being filed in the lower court, such as in the municipal or regional trial court. Ang tawag sa kanila, accused or respondent, okay, or defendant if you are talking about civil case. Diyan, kapag nasa regional or municipal trial court. Kapag nasa Court of Appeals naman, pag natalo ka sa lower court, which is municipal and regional trial court, iaapila mo yung kaso sa Court of Appeals. Ang tawag ngayon sa'yo, from accused or respondent or defendant, magiging appellant. Okay? Kasi you are the person appealing, okay, the decision of the lower court before the Court of Appeals. So, yung kaso na sa Court of Appeals, ang tawag sa naghain doon sa appeal ay appellant. Okay? Now, from the Court of Appeals, kung natalo ka sa Court of Appeals, gusto mo pa rin na i-apply yung kaso sa higher court or the highest court, which is the Supreme Court, then you are going to do that appeal by way of a petition. Kaya ang tawag sa iyo ngayon, petitioner, just like in our case. Okay? Meaning to say that this case, okay, had already been decided by the lower court, the Court of Appeals, okay, and now it is lodged, okay, before the sala of the Supreme Court to decide. Okay. Ma'am, bakit ba tayo nag-aapila? Bakit natin inaapila yung kaso sa Korte Suprema? Okay? Unang-una, gusto natin na mabigyan ng hustisya. Okay? Kung sa tingin natin walang hustisya na nangyari sapagkat una, okay, may pagkakamali ang Court of Appeals, okay, na desisyonan ang kaso sapagkat ang kaso ay wala na sa kanyang jurisdiksyon. Okay? It is no longer within the jurisdiction of the Court of Appeals to decide on the case. If that it will be our ground, then we can file a petition before the Supreme Court for the Supreme Court to at least review the decision of the Court of Appeals. Okay? So, yan yung tinatawag nating error of jurisdiction. Your ground for the appeal before the Supreme Court will be based on the alleged error of jurisdiction of the Court of Appeals in taking your case. Yan. Isa yan sa magiging ground mo para ikaw ay mag-appeal sa Korte Suprema. What else? Lack of jurisdiction or grave abuse of the discretion. So, error of jurisdiction, ibig sabihin, the Court of Appeals, may pagkakamali ang Court of Appeals to take the case kasi wala na yun sa ambit or it's no longer within its jurisdiction. Wala na sa lawak ng kanyang kapangyarihan yung kaso. Okay? So, may pagkakamali ang Court of Appeals, sabi mo, okay, Korte Suprema, please paki-review po yung desisyon ng Court of Appeals kasi dinesisyonan nila yung kaso ko kahit wala na sa kanilang jurisdiction. Next, okay, lack of jurisdiction. Korte Suprema, paki-review po yung desisyon ng Court of Appeals sa aking kaso sapagkat dinesisyonan pa rin ng Court of Appeals ang kaso ko kahit wala silang jurisdiction. Yung una, may jurisdiction sila pero outside na yung kaso mo. Sa pangalawa, yung Court of Appeals, wala talagang karapatan na i-take yung case mo. Okay? So, lack of jurisdiction. So, without the jurisdiction, or it's no longer within the jurisdiction of the Court of Appeals. Pangatlo na grounds for you to appeal the decision of the Court of Appeals before the Supreme Court. Okay? Grave abuse of discretion. Anong sasabihin mo sa Korte Suprema, please paki-review yung desisyon ng Court of Appeals sa kaso ko sapagkat inabuso nila ang kanilang kapangyarihan doon sa kaso ko, kaya nagdesisyon sila against me. Okay? So, that would be the three bases or grounds that you could use in order for you to appeal the decision of the Court of Appeals before the Supreme Court. Nakasaad yan sa tinatawag nating Rule 45 and Rule 65 of the remedial law. Okay? Yan, yung remedial law na tinatawag, yan yung batas na ginagamit ng mga abogado. Pang sa ganoon ay hanapan ng solusyon ang mga kaso na binibigay sa kanila or ibinabato sa kanila ng mga kliyente. Okay? Those are that is why it's called remedial law, because yun nga, remedial, from the term remedial law. Okay? Remedial, what are the remedies available to a particular case? Okay, so all of these remedies are being instituted or being written in that particular law, remedial law. Okay, it's just a way of the lawyer to look into what particular rule is from remedial law that he could use to defend the case being given to him. Okay, or he is holding. Now, what is the case of Maximino Benaventura versus Court of Appeals and the people of the Philippines? Okay, now, this case was being filed before the Supreme Court, I should say, because of the, yun nga, sabi natin kanina, there was a lack of jurisdiction, grave abuse of discretion, errors of jurisdiction that has been committed by the Court of Appeals, according to Benaventura, in deciding his case. Ano ba to? Nagmula saan ang kaso na to? Okay. Ang kaso na to initially was filed by the people of the Philippines against Benaventura for an alleged forgery committed by Benaventura on the signature of the Chief Executive of the Philippines. Okay, so tignan natin what are the facts on this case. Okay, sa kaso, sinasabi dito that Benaventura, had committed at least 11 counts of forgery, on 11 documents. So, one count for one document that has been forged. Ano ang sinasabi? Si Benaventura daw ay kanyang finorge ang signature ng presidente ng Pilipinas, who is then President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. during that time. Okay? Doon sa 11 na dokumento. Ano-ano yung mga dokumento na to? Okay? First, nakategorize yung 11 documents into 4. Okay? Documents creating a particular agency of the government, which is called the PROMS. What is PROMS? Presidential Regional Assessment Monitoring System. Okay, I'm sorry, it's not assessment, assistant, I should say. So, Presidential Regional Assistant Monitoring System. Okay, so nagkaroon ng isang dokumento that this document is stating that there will be an office of the coming from under the umbrella of the Office of the President, which is called PROMS. Okay? So these documents were uh, allegedly being signed by then President Ferdinand Marcos Sr. Another kind of document that was being forged, according to this case, is the appointment of the petitioner, meaning to say Benaventura, as the head of the PRAMS. So, unang dokumento, meron daw isang dokumento na nagsasabi na na-create ang office, the PRAMS, within the Office of the President. Okay? Second document, na the petitioner, Benaventura, will be designated or assigned as the chief executive of that particular office, which is the PROMS. Okay. Third document, okay. Third category of the document, there are documents that were being released, okay, setting the standard operating procedures of the PROMS. Nakasaad dito kung paano daw yung mag-ooperate yung opisina na PROMS na tinatawag under the supervision of its chief executive na si Benaventura. And the fourth document is a presidential permission for free fare. Okay? Okay, free fare, libreng sakay. Okay? Hindi lang, at particularly hindi lang sakay, kundi even sa shipping. Okay? Libre ang pagsakay sa lahat ng mga government-owned vehicles, including, of course, the shipping that talks about importation and exportation of goods to and from the Philippines. Okay? Exportation from the Philippines and importation towards the Philippines. Libre daw yung pagsaship. Okay? That is the four categories of the 11 documents that were allegedly being forged, okay, by Benaventura. So lahat ng dokumentong ito, okay, na 11 documents containing the four categories na binanggit ko kanina, ay mga dokumento na merong signature yung presidente ng Pilipinas, okay, allegedly, na talagang signature ito or talagang signed by then President Marcos Jr. But yung kaso na to, sinasabi na itong mga dokumento na to are not actually bearing the signature, the genuine signature of the President of the Republic of the Philippines, but bears the signature which are, okay, being done by Benaventura. Ibig sabihin na yung mga signature sa mga dokumentong ito ay hindi talaga signature na pagmamayari ni Presidente Marcos, kundi mga signature na gawa ni Benaventura. Okay? So there were 11 counts of forgery. Okay? Considering that there were 11 documents allegedly being forged, okay, or 11 documents allegedly to have been containing the forged signature of the President of the Republic. Okay, so however, these were documents were already there in the office of the President. Okay, and were only being discovered by the executive assistant of the President, then Juan C. Tuvera. Okay? So, si Presidential Executive Assistant Tuvera, nag-issue ng Memorandum Circular 1281 noong March 25, 1985 na nagsasabi na informing everybody that in reality there was no agency, okay, or office called PROMS. So, itong Memorandum Circular na to, sinasabi ni Tuvera na I would like to inform everyone that the Presidential Regional Assistant Monitoring System okay, is actually a haunted office, meaning to say it's a ghost office. And even those people being allegedly being assigned as members of this office are ghost employees. Okay? So wala itong prompts na tinatawag. There is none. It's not an existing office. So yan ang sinasabi ng Memorandum Circular number 1281. Bakit nag-issue si Presidential Executive Assistant to Vera ng ganitong memorandum? It's because it came to his attention, I should say, that a particular office called prompts were being allotted with funds, and this office was actually operating mm, already in the government. Kasi nag-ooperate na ito at meron ng mga pundo na pumapasok at lumalabas sa opisina na ito. While in fact, there is no such document, okay, that will prove that such particular office is being created under the authority of the President of the Philippines. So being the Presidential Executive Assistant, ikaw nga naman ang sekretaryo ng presidente, hindi mo alam na merong office na ganun. So, nagtataka si Mr. Tavera. That's why he asked for the assistant of the Presidential Security Committee to conduct an investigation regarding this matter. So, to forewarn or to warn other officers and the public with respect to the existence of a haunted office called PROMS, issued this memorandum circular number 1281. Okay, that's the mere purpose of the memorandum circular, to warn everybody that there is no such thing as an office called PROMS. Okay, now the Presidential Security Command, and ito yung tawag natin ngayon dito, PSG. So, Presidential Security Group. Dati ang tawag natin in 1985, it is called as Presidential Security Command. Okay? Together, of course, with the Office of the President, okay, through the Malacanang Complaints and Investigation Office. So, meron silang CIO dati, Complaints and Investigation Office. Tawag nila CIO. Ngayon, kapag sinasabi natin CIO, it's a Committee on Information Office. Baliktad. Okay? So, dati, it's Complaints and Investigation Office. Okay? These three offices joined hands in conducting the investigation surrounding the office of PROMS, yung Presidential Regional Assistant Monitoring System na tinatawag. This is in response already to the request of the Presidential Executive Assistant to Vera, okay, replying to the memorandum circular that he released in 1985. So the basis of the Office of the President and the CIO, together with the PSC or the Presidential Security Command, in conducting an investigation is, of course, the provision of under our law, which is Article 161, with respect to counterfeiting the Great Seal of the Government of the Philippine Islands and forging the signature or stamp of the Chief Executive. Okay. This particular violation, okay, is being penalized for reclusion temporal, okay, to any person who forge, okay, the signature or stamp of the chief executive and even the great seal of the government of the Philippines. So how are you going to forge the great seal of the government of the republic? Okay? Well, what you're going to do is just to copy the Great Seal and put that particular seal in every document that purported to have been originating from the office of the President, while in truth and in fact, it is not released by the office of the President. Okay? That's already forging, merely using it. Okay? The Great Seal of the Republic of the Philippines. and signing it as if, okay, showing to everybody that as if it is, or giving an impression to everyone that that document, it really comes from the office of the president, is already an act of forgery. Okay? So ito yung naging basihan ng PSC, CIO at Office of the President to conduct the investigation. Okay? Now, what have this investigation resolved? Or what have the CIO, the PSC, and the Office of the President found out in the investigation? They found out that the documents in question, which purport to have been signed by then President Marcos, are bogus documents, meaning to say these are fake documents. Okay? So the trial court and the Court of Appeals correctly found the petitioner Maximino Benaventura to be the author of the forgery. Okay? It is fake. The documents are fake in the sense that the signature of the president appearing in the document are not genuine. These are forged signatures of the president of the republic. Okay. So, sabi ni Gamido, ni Benaventura, sabi niya, no, I did not, even if that document creating the prompts and designating me as the chief executive of prompts are fake or forged, well, I am not the forger. Yun ang sabi ni Benaventura. O sige, sabihin na natin fake yung document. Pero hindi naman ako yung nag-fake yan. Hindi naman ako yung nag-forge yan. Okay? So, yun ang argument or alibi ni Benaventura. So, the question now is, if the documents are fake in the sense that it was forged by a certain person, and assuming that it was not the petitioner who forged the document, sino? Sino ang nag-forge ng document? Okay? Yun ang tanong ng court to what we call Benaventura. So Benaventura cannot give any names, cannot drop any names. Wala siyang masabi kung sino. So that is why the court ruled that since there was no anybody who was named, specifically named as the forger, okay, the presumption of law is that the possessor and the user of the falsified documents is actually the forger. Sabi nila, sige, since wala kayong masabi, wala kayong mag-drop the name kung sino yung forger, the presumption is kung sino yung nakahawak at gumagamit ng dokumento na yan, ay siyang may alam na ito ay peke. Ibig sabihin, siya yung pumeke or gumawa ng peking dokumento na yan. Yun ang sabi ng court. Okay? Oo nga naman, bakit mo gagamitin yan kung alam mo na it was forged? Diba? Ano yung intention mo dyan? Okay, so, kung hindi ka wala ka namang alam na ibang tao na pwedeng mag-forge yan, since ikaw ang gumagamit, sa'yo nakita, then, the presumption is, ikaw talaga yung forger. Katulad din lang yan ng pagnanakaw class. Sabi mo, hindi ako ang magnanakaw, hindi ako ang nagnakaw. Pero yung thing na ninakaw, nasa'yo. Hindi ako ang nagnakaw yung wallet na yan. Pero yung wallet nasa'yo. So, paano mo ngayon i-defend yung sarili mo na hindi nga ikaw yung nagnakaw kung yung item na sinasabing ninakaw ay nasa poder mo, nasa posisyon mo. Okay? So, it's very hard to defend yourself already if the object of the crime is in your hands, is in your possession. It's like what the court had said in this particular case. So, the possessor and user of the falsified document, okay, is the forger thereof. Okay? So, what did the court say? Guilty ang petitioner. The court found out that Maximino Gabido Benaventura, the petitioner in this case, is guilty of forgery under Article 161 of the Revised Penal Code of the Philippines. Okay? Forging the executive signature And using such particular uh, signature in falsifying the documents, the 11 documents, creating okay, an office called prompts, and designating the petitioner as the chief executive of that particular office, as well as in declaring that there was a standard operating procedure of this particular office, including the document on free fare on transportation. Okay? So, what was the ruling in this case? Since he was guilty, then the penalty under Article 161 is being uh, given to the petitioner in its maximum period. So, reclusion temporal was given as a penalty to Maximino Buenaventura. Okay? So, sabi ng korte, guilty siya sapagkat makikita na walang basehan upang sa ganoon ay mag-issue ang presidente ng ganoong mga dokumento. And purely, what could have been the motive and the reason behind the creation of that office, ghost office or haunted office, is for the benefit of then petitioner Buenaventura. Just imagine, class, that Buenaventura, because of those fake or falsified documents, were receiving uh, remuneration, or what they call this, salary funds from the government for his benefit. Nagkaroon ng allotment of funds sa office na yan. So, ibig sabihin, pag mag-allotted fund na yan, may pera dyan, sino bang makikinabang sa pera na yan? Okay? In the first place, na wala naman talaga opisina kung saan gagastusin yung pera. Well, the presumption is the petitioner will enjoy the funds that were being allotted on that particular office. Okay? Especially that it was being mentioned na siya ang inilagay na chief executive sa dokumento na yon. So all of the funds being allotted will be transferred directly to Benaventura. Okay, so this is a perfect example of what we call forgery on the signature of the chief executive of the Philippines, and it is a case where we can see the application of the provisions of law provided under Article 161 of the Revised Penal Code. Okay, so this is how the law works. Ay, wag niyo sabihin or wag nating sabihin na okay lang, gawin ko to, i-forge ko yung signature ng teacher ko na kunwari yung grade ko instead of 70 90. So sinulatan mo ngayon yung line of 7, ginawa mong 9, yung 70, yung 90 tuloy yung grade mo. So napakataas, and it qualifies you to become a dance lister. Okay? Kaya graduating ka pa naman. Later on, if it is found out that you had at least added or altered the document by way of adding, erasing, mutilating any of the parts of a particular document for purposes of the showing or making an impression to everyone that such particular document bears the correct numbers and bears the authentic signature of another person, that will qualify an act of forgery, and that will subject you or the perpetrator under Article 161 of the Revised Penal Code, penalizing it or providing for the penalty of reclusion temporal to the actor. Okay? So kung sino man ang nagbabalak dyan na mag-alter ng any document, sabi nyo, anyway, hindi naman malalaman yan. Kasi hindi naman titignan. Ang swerte mo kung hindi tinignan. Okay. There was a case in our locality. Hindi ninyo alam. It was not being mentioned under the news kasi. Ewan ko kung there is a news monopoly, pero this was an actual case that happened in our locality in Tabuk City, kung saan may isang empleyado, okay, sa ating gobyerno na naalis because of forgery. Why? Kasi in order for you to be qualified to become permanent in a particular position in a government office or agency, kailangan that you are a civil service eligible. So, dapat may eligibility ka na gagamitin para ikaw ang mabigyan ng permanenteng posisyon sa kahit anumang posisyon sa gobyerno. Okay? So, it so happened that this employee is working under the office of the Treasury Office. Isa sa mga opisina ng karaniwang organisasyon. Okay? So, nagkaroon ng bakanting posisyon, permanenteng item sa kanilang opisina. So, dahil gusto niya maging permanente, okay, ang ginawa niya is to falsify a document. What is a document? A certification coming from the Civil Service Commission stating or certifying that she or he had passed the civil service exam, the eligibility examination. So, nagamit niya yun actually, class, nakuha niya yung permanency. Okay? And she holds the office for around 3 to 4 years. She received the salary of that permanent office for that period. Okay? Just imagine kung magkano ang ginastos ng gobyerno para bayaran siya sa isang posisyon na hindi naman dapat nasa kanya sapagkat ang dokumento na sinabmit niya para mapermanente ay falsified. It was falsified by way of forging the signature of the head of the Civil Service Commission in the alleged certificate of eligibility. And so, nagkaroon siya ng certificate of eligibility na kunwari na signan or sinainan mismo ng head ng CSC. Actually, it was not the head of the CSC who really signed that. Magaling lang talaga yung nangopya ng signature. Okay? So, she or he did not or was not able to drop the name of the forger. So, anong hatol sa kanya ng court? Because, of course, the Civil Service Commission had filed a case against this person. She was being fired from office. All the benefits that she was enjoying and she was about to enjoy were taken from her permanently. And that a request for her to be disqualified in any government office was also being decided against him or her. Okay? So, naalis na siya sa pwesto dahil sa forgery na yon. Nasa loob siya ng bilangguan ngayon. Okay? At worst, nagkaroon siya ng permanent disqualification to hold any office, to hold any position in any government office. Hindi na siya pwedeng maging empleyado ng kahit anong opisina ng gobyerno. Yun ang pinakamasakit na nangyari. Yun ang pinakamalala na pwedeng mangyari sa isang tao na gumagawa ng ganitong klase ng krimen. Forgery. Remember that it is a crime to falsify any document, even if such falsification, especially I should say, if such falsification is done through forgery. Okay? By forgery, we mean counterfeiting, altering, mutilating, erasing, or adding any part of a genuine document to make it appear that such document is genuine or authentic in all its aspects, especially the signature of an authority, to everyone for purposes of personal gain. Then you might be subject to the penalty that is provided under Article 161 or 171, respect to falsification, under the revised penal code. Okay, so that is one of the notable cases that happened under the Republic of the Philippines, constituting the crime of forgery and falsification. So this is a perfect example of that particular case. Kasi nagkakaroon ng pagtataka yung iba kung paano daw natin i-forge. Simple lang. Diba, kinokopya nila yung document galing sa office ng president and then they sign it without even considering the consequences that they might suffer of doing this. Okay, so that is all for now. I would like to remind you to please take note of the discussion. Okay? Take the notes of this case because this may come out during the examination. So please be ready also for the examination because your examiner is only 1 week left for us to meet. Expect for a summative review test prior to the final examination. Thank you very much for listening and have a good day.